Thank you so much for joining us here on Idaho Today. We begin by tackling a critical issue in our digital age, the risks that teenagers face online and how parents can better protect their children. Social media and messaging apps are integral parts of teenage life, but they also come with significant dangers. To help us navigate this complex topic, we are joined by Dr. Steve Webb. He's a renowned social media intelligence expert and also the author of Education in a Violent World. Dr. Webb, thank you so much for joining us from Southern Illinois this morning.
Thank you for having me and helping me.
All right. Okay, so Dr. Webb, I would like to begin by having you explain what anonymous messaging apps are and how they pose a unique risk to teenagers online.
Well, of course, there are various and numerous anonymous apps out there that say that they're for the adult or for mature audiences only, and kids are getting their hands on these things and they're using them to put out messages like, do I look pretty? And they let anybody say anything that they want to anonymously. That is the worst place you can be for cyber harassment and cyber bullying, because when people get behind that keyboard, they believe they can say anything no matter how hurtful it is to our children.
Yeah. There seems to be a bit of a superpower they feel when they're able to be unidentifiable, right?
Correct. And you know, when they do that, sometimes kids are going on to these anonymous sites and lying about their age as well. And some people may think that they're talking to an adult.
Yeah.
And they're not. They may be talking to a 10-year-old child, which is going to be detrimental to them all day long. And we expect that world, as they come into our schools, for them to be normal, and it's just not that way anymore.
No. Okay. And also, you know, we've seen incidences involving anonymous apps leading to serious problems like cyberbullying, like we talked about, and in some cases, even abductions. Can you provide an example of how these apps have been misused in these types of cases?
Absolutely. One of the apps is called Emerald Chat. And Emerald Chat was actually used by a young girl in Arkansas, I believe it was, on her school laptop. She was able to do a workaround to be able to get that app and be able to talk to somebody from Pennsylvania who she thought was a 15-year-old child. And when that person then wanted to meet with her and wanted her to get into a vehicle and go with him, even though she saw he was not a 15-year-old child, she still got in that vehicle with him. And fortunately, she turned out okay. He did not. But this has to be a lesson to everybody. Just because they're in their room and quiet doesn't mean they're safe. These predators know how to get to them. They know what to say to groom them. And we parents need to be aware of it.
Okay. And when it comes to these apps as well, I mean, very terrifying situation right there. I'm glad everything turned out all right, but it's obvious that it possibly could not have been that outcome. That's why I want to talk about these apps and how they facilitate cyberbullying and what makes them particularly dangerous compared to more transparent social media apps where parents know what's going on and people do have to identify themselves.
Sure. Well, there's, you know, the worst of the worst is called Yik Yak. Yik Yak, we thought we got rid of from, you know, there's been several suicides connected to that social media platform, and then it made its reappearance last year, and kids are starting to use it again. And that's just basically lets somebody say anything they want to your child, and they're in the vicinity, but they're anonymous. It's one of the worst out there. And just think about what that child's what's going through their minds, knowing that there's somebody in the hallway with them or in the church with them that's saying these terrible things to them, and they don't know who they are, but they know they're in the vicinity.
Okay, also very disturbing as well. Okay, so we've identified some of these apps. Luckily, a few, like you had mentioned, have been removed. But as we move forward, and there's just going to be more and more creations of apps coming out, sometimes our kids, our teens are accessing apps that we don't even know about. So what can we do as parents? Give us some of the steps that we can take to safeguard our children from being harmed by online predators and cyberbullies.
Sure. Well, there are three major steps. And the first one is educate. Educate yourself on what's out there and how it's being used. And then you communicate that with very specific details with your children. Know what's on their phones. Parents, these are your phones. You probably bought those for those children. They have no expectation of privacy. Know it's there. Communicate the good, the bad, and the ugly about everything that's going on in this world using social media. And then the third thing is advocate. Go tell others. Go tell other parents. You know, I didn't grow up in this social media world. I had to learn about what's going on, and now I just immerse myself in it so I can tell you and tell your fans what's going on, go out and tell somebody else what you learn.
Yeah, I think you make a great point, about the whole educate. It's not something that I'm familiar with growing up, right, in my teen years, but making a point as a parent to make sure that I know as much as I possibly can about that, maybe even adventuring into it on my own device so I know what's out there and what my children are accessing. Very important. Also, maybe setting some of those filters, right, on phones are very important as well. Dr. Webb, where can people go so they can learn more?
You can go to my website at drstevewebb.com and you can contact me there. But basically, there are several websites out there that talk about apps these days, particularly those anonymous apps. And make sure that you understand what a vault is and all of these other types of apps that hide things from you. Be aware that they're there and talk to your children about that. Let them know that you're aware of that.
Wonderful. Dr. Webb, thank you so much. Greatly appreciate it. And